Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about the month of April, and I have so much to talk about this month. It is really a monumental month for major changes. You're going to want to listen in to all of this video because I have so many events and dates to talk about. But before I begin, I do want you to realize that all the dates and everything that I'm talking about are outlined and even more in my newsletter. So if you go to my website, galacticcenter.org, sign up for my free newsletter. It is free. You will get all of these dates all documented and everything that is about to occur this monumental month of change. So don't skip over this because you're missing out. Seriously, you are. You will have it all delivered to your email address weekly. Now, another thing is, while you're at my galacticcenter.org website, don't forget to sign up for my Patreon. If you want to be in the know, be part of a spiritual community, no, you don't have to know astrology to be part of Patreon. Join. You will be part of a spiritual community. You will love it. That you can find on my website, galacticcenter.org, as well as two more things I have to tell you about that are so radically important, and that is to try out my galactic planner. If you want to have all of the transits according to their hits to your natal chart, the days, the descriptions, everything you need to know, sign up for the Galactic Planner, and that is galacticplanner.com. It does all of your transits, plus even your dashas. There is nothing out there like it. And I say this sincerely. So just go check it out, galacticplanner.com. Now, one last thing, I have an entire school online called the University of Vedic Astrology.com, and you can learn all that I teach, become a Vedic astrologer. So now let's get going and let us talk about what is in store for us this month, because I've got to say this is the month that I feel like everything's coming down. Yes, last month we had so many astrological aspects and events, but now all the triggering occurs. Now the events occur. You're gonna want to know when so that you can prepare yourself. So what I'm looking at is that after the last solar eclipse, this eclipse happened March 29th. And really, eclipses set the tone for the next 6 months until we have another solar eclipse. This eclipse has so much that it sets the tone for. It is really remarkable. And astrology is telling us to watch. This is the month of events. So what is going on that I think is so huge is, well, for one thing, Saturn just shifted signs, and Saturn is now in Pisces for the next 2.5 years. It will be in Pisces till June of 2027. So Saturn being there is huge for the change that's about to occur. I'm going to get into the details, marking the dates for this. Now, probably the most chilling of all that is going to cause some events happening this very month is the fact that Uranus has just entered back into Taurus. And when it does, we're going to talk about the degree markings. It's really incredible. Now, Uranus stays in a sign for about 7 years. It already was in Taurus for a short time. but it's going to come back and remain in Taurus till the year of 2032. And this is going to really, really change our world. I have no doubt. But the most interesting planet that always triggers everything is the planet of energy, which is Mars. Mars is a trigger. It rules energy, action, anger, violence, war, major events. It makes things happen. So we're going to be looking at Mars in terms of how it is this month, a triggering agent for Saturn and Uranus, because this is really what it's all about. So Mars is going to go back into Cancer. Mars has been retrograde since December 6, 2024. And it's gone all the way back into Gemini from Cancer at that point, now in its direct motion, which it turned direct around February 23rd. It's now going to go back into Cancer. And this is hugely important because of the placement of where it will be for the United States chart. So we're going to be talking a lot about events that are due to happen this month in the US. And of course, this is going to vibrate throughout the world. Major, major events. So when Mars does go into Cancer, this is monumental. And when it does, at 0 degrees of Cancer, it will be aspecting Saturn and Uranus. They're all going to be 0 degrees at the same time. And this point will be around April 4th. April 4th, look out. We have some major, major monumental events happening. So this is going to affect everyone on the planet. So get ready. So Mars will be in Cancer, by the way, between April 2nd and June 6th. So this is important. April 2nd through June 6th, it is in the sign of Cancer once again, stirring everything up because in the United States chart, Cancer is the 8th house. And the 8th house is the house of secrets, scandals, definitely corruption, and major, huge, big money. This is the deepest, darkest point of a chart, the 8th house. And it also deals with death. So this is huge that we have Mars in the 8th house for the United States chart. But most importantly, it's going to cross over 2 planets there that are going to trigger major events, especially with scandalous affairs and things that are going to be realized that it's really going to be hard to believe the truth. And it's already been coming out, but we haven't seen nothing yet. Let's see where this is going to take us, because this is the true uncovering of the secrets, the scandals, the events that we thought were conspiracy theories. Think again. The reality of these truths will shock many in this world. That is a promise. So while Saturn is also at 0 degrees of Pisces, which remember will be around the date of April 4th, I'm going to give you even specifics here. The United States chart actually has its natal Mars at 0 degrees of Gemini, Saturn squaring that. The aspects that are happening simultaneously all at the same time are really pretty shocking and incredible for even an astrologer. Trust me, this is monumental. So continuing on, let me see what else I have to say. So, you know, I have mentioned so many times, but for you that are just tuning in for the first time, in my world predictions, I've been talking about when Saturn and Rahu come together in the sign of Pisces. This is huge. And yes, Saturn comes together with Rahu about every 11, 12 years, but not in a particular sign. So the last time that it was in Pisces was in 1968. And going back to 1968, it was a horrendous year. As a matter of fact, the Vietnam War was at a peak, and more American soldiers died that year than before. Plus, most of all, it was a year of major assassinations. We had the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy. So I have no doubt that there will be more assassination attempts. So the probability of this will run high. Now, I gotta say, the attempts, whatever, if it goes through or not, this is a wake-up call. This is a wake-up period. And what I find fascinating, so Saturn and Rahu will be in early Pisces. Now they're going to come together and exactly conjunct. I'm going to give you the date for that too. But they will be together in the sign for exactly 2 months, from March 29th of this year till May 29th of this year. So that concludes 2 months of this. Now, but during this time, I also noticed that both Robert Kennedy Jr., his chart has K2 at 0 degrees of Cancer. Now, Donald Trump, President Trump, has his Saturn at 0 degrees of Cancer in his 12th house. And the 12th house is the house of loss. So let me repeat what's going on here, because I've been jumping all over the place with all of this. So Saturn comes together with Rahu, but all at the same time, they're going to be in the early degrees of Pisces. Now, in 1968, when Rahu and Saturn were together in Pisces, they were in the latter degrees of Pisces. Now, I hope that this makes a huge, big difference. But this sign of Pisces does represent endings. It's the last sign of the zodiac. So going back to this date where Mars comes into Cancer again, this will be April 2nd through the 4th, that it will be exactly at 0 degrees of Cancer. And meanwhile, Saturn sits at 0 degrees of Pisces, and Uranus sits at 0 degrees of Taurus. So Saturn is aspecting by its Vedic full 100% in power aspect, which in Vedic astrology, we look at the Saturn sextile, forward sextile, as 100% in power. Essentially, it equates to exactly Saturn conjuncting a planet. So Saturn at 0 degrees of Pisces and Uranus at 0 degrees of Taurus, it is like Saturn's conjunct Uranus. This is a third full aspect. I cannot tell you how intensely important this is. Please pay attention, even if you know no astrology, because here's what's happening. Saturn is in full aspect to Uranus. Why is that degree and everything so important? Because President Trump's midhaven, MC, sits at 1 degree of Taurus. Now, this is important because the last time Uranus crossed over this degree marking was July 13th, when he was almost assassinated, the assassination attempt. Mars was there that time. So on that day, Mars and Uranus conjoined together at 1 degree of Taurus. But this time, we have Saturn aspecting it where Uranus is. So it's like Saturn-Uranus conjunct on his midheaven. This could be catastrophic. He is in a dangerous position. He must be careful. So this is what I'm talking about. Now, April 2nd through the 4th, these are important dates because, well, and April 4th is the date that it's dead on, when these planets all aspect each other, and they are so close to President Trump's 1 degree marking of his midheaven. And another thing I might add, that degree, 1 to 2 degrees of Taurus, is where the most demonic fixed star of the heavens sits. It's called Agol. And this is treacherous times. So I'm telling you, the first week and essentially the first 2 weeks of April are very, very dangerous for not only President Trump, but Robert Kennedy Jr., because his natal K2 sits 0 degrees of Cancer. And Trump, here's another thing going on simultaneously in his chart. Trump's natal Saturn sits at 0 degrees of Cancer, right where Mars is going to cross over on April, well, 2nd through the 4th. And then we have, within another week or so, that when Mars moves up and will aspect Saturn, Uranus, all of these planets, but Mars is going to be exactly conjunct on the degree mark of 0 degrees. Let me remind everyone, what is that degree mark? 0 Cancer, Mars hits it. It's on Trump's Saturn in his 12th house of loss. The 12th house is loss and endings. So this is critical. And Kennedy has his K2 there. Another thing that's going on throughout this whole month is where we have Saturn, Rahu, and all of the planets and the previous eclipse degree marking. They were all in President Trump's 8th house of his natal chart. The 8th house of Vice President J.D. Vance. The 8th house from the moon. Yes, from the moon when we're looking at Elon Musk's chart. The 8th house is uncovering secrets, scandals, and most of all, it can be a very treacherous and dangerous house. It is the house of scandals, of death, and major transformations. So I think you're starting to get a feel, and there's more to come. Let me tell you what else is going on. Because as Uranus crosses over this star, remember that the midheaven in anyone's chart, which we're talking about Trump's, is your social standing, your reputation. It is your purpose. It is your career. And of course, as we know, Mars-Uranus hit that degree mark and he was almost assassinated. Now we're going to deal with Saturn and Uranus over that mark. And April 8th through the 14th will be when that Saturn-Uranus is exact to that 1 degree mark that is his midheaven. So as you can see, I'm talking about April 4th, then I'm talking about April 2nd through the 4th, then I'm talking about April 8th through the 14th. So let's just say the first 2 weeks of April, we have many things that could be triggered. This is huge. Now let me continue on because there's more to look out for. So all of this is happening where Mars is transiting in Cancer in the 8th house of the United States chart. Now, if you're interested in seeing all these charts, I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on these events and these degrees, showing you the charts. But for right now, I'm giving you an overall picture. For those that don't want to study the astrology with me, they can just get an overall picture of the events based on where these transits are hitting and why I'm saying these events will happen. So now I'm looking at transiting Mars through Cancer, but April 10th through the 13th is going to open so many things concerning communications where we have been lied to, where the truth and false propaganda has been really shoved down our throats, and now we're going to see the truth. And let me just say, it deals with so many aspects of our lives, not just the money and the corruption, but the death, the Kennedy assassination, all of the things that happened with the previous assassinations in the 60s, as well as probably all of the cover-ups, and even dealing with aliens. We're going to get an explosive view. And even the Epstein information, and Diddy, all of these things, I'm telling you, no more will the lies be covered up. Because now we're going to find the truth. April 10th through the 13th, I see many things happening. Why? Because at that time, it's going to be hard to believe, but this is when transiting Mars will conjunct natal Mercury in the 8th house of the United States chart. What is Mercury? Communications, the news, all the representation of things that have been given to us. And I don't mean just now. I'm going back 50 years or more. We're going to see so many cover-ups. It's really phenomenal. Okay, so this is the time of uncovering the truth. And then again, there's going to be another big hit. This won't be till May 10th and the 12th, because during this time, transiting Mars will cross over Rahu in the 8th house of the United States chart. And in between that, Mars is going to oppose the United States Pluto. So in between April 10th through May 10th, we've got Mars opposed Pluto. This is dramatic. This can be some catastrophic event that could happen in the United States. Pluto is heavy. But remember this, these are the most revolutionary times. And yes, hysteria may break out, and I suspect it will, because a lot of people aren't going to be able to pretty much believe the truth. It's just going to be over the top that they cannot conceive. So the aftermath is going to shake up the entire world, not just in the United States, because other countries are a part of the scandals. Other countries are part of the corruption, and the whole world is going to see it as that. Now, there's another thing that I have to talk about, and that is the full moon that happens on April 12th. This full moon occurs at 29 degrees of Virgo. And for the last 6 months, every one of the full moons occurred at 29 degrees from November through April. This is the last one. And what that represents, 29 degrees, represents the end of something. Therefore, we're on the brink of a new beginning. Something radically has to change and end before this brand new awakening and beginning. So this is an amazing change. But here is the good news. That 29-degree mark in Virgo is conjunct the fixed star Arcturus and Spica. And Spica is said to be the most auspicious and blessed fixed star of the heavens. So you see how much we have going on with the worst to the best? This fixed star is known to be about the arts and literature and all the things that are about to come out and be composed. And it deals with overnight revelations and sensations that come out. I think this means there are going to be the most amazing inventions come out soon. And it's going to happen almost like this part of the equation is going to happen almost overnight. And what this means is that there is a spiritual revolution going on. And what I know is going to happen is suddenly, because of the truth, and the truth heals, there is going to be an elevation of consciousness. People, no matter what their beliefs are going to see the truth. And all this political stuff that has separated and caused so much havoc in the world, it's really this is just the catalyst for what needed to happen, the changes. So no matter what your political bent is, it doesn't matter, because everything that's been happening is happening for a divine reason, just so this catalyst and change can occur, which it is. You're going to see people vibrate at a higher frequency and have a more open mind, and there's going to be an evolution of consciousness, of humanity through this. This is incredible. So I've got a few more dates to give you, and that is with Mercury and Venus being retrograde, they actually both will station on extraordinarily important degrees. So this is another major trigger for this month. I gotta tell you, this is incredible because, well, first let's talk about Mercury. Mercury is going to turn direct on April 7th, and it will turn direct around 2 to 3 degrees of Pisces. So does that 3-degree mark ring a bell? Because I'm telling you, that is such an important degree, because 2-3 degrees of Pisces is actually where Rahu and Saturn will conjoin. That's pretty amazing, because looking at this, let's see. So Saturn and Rahu will conjoin at 2 to 3 degrees of Pisces. And also, going back to Mercury, let's see, Mercury and Venus. Well, remember this, that Mercury will trigger, Mercury is going to trigger that degree marking that Mars was when it was 3 degrees of Cancer in the 8th house of the United States chart, conjuncting United States natal Mercury at 3 degrees of Cancer. All of this is triggered by Mercury turning direct. And Mercury, once it turns direct, people change their minds. So when it was retrograde, they're thinking one way, and now when it turns direct, they think another way, and it opens up the lines for communication, and it opens up the truth of everything that was going on hidden in the government, because I am talking about the chart for the United States where Mercury's 3 degrees of Cancer. So Mercury at 3 degrees of Pisces is triggering that degree as it stations the 3 degrees of Cancer. Now, one more thing, April 12th is the full moon, right? And on that same day, Venus turns direct. And it's going to turn direct at 0 degrees of Pisces. What were we talking about? 0 degrees of Cancer, 0 degrees of Taurus, 0 degrees of Pisces. Venus is going to trigger with its direct motion those degree markings. Now, these degree markings are setting up for great violence and extremes happening in the world. But Venus stationing on that degree means something's going to come of it, and that deals with world peace. Venus is the planet of peace. Now, how in the world do I say peace is coming out of this? Trust me, it will. But we have a ways to go, because what you're going to find out is June and July will be incredible months for violence. But something's going to blow up and blow out, and this is going to bring where we need to go in terms of peace. Because Venus being the planet of peace, here is an interesting theory that I have derived from so many cases of peace treaties. It's actually in my textbook, Eastern Astrology for Western Minds, where I went into great detail looking at when Venus turned retrograde. Then after it turned retrograde, this is a month or two following that, it will become an evening star. This is part of the whole process of Venus's cycle. So when it becomes an evening star, things get really intense and really difficult on the planet. The Mayans were really, really predictive with the cycle of Venus. But after it turned retrograde, it's actually an 8.5 to 9 year cycle, month cycle before it becomes an evening star again, because it's the morning star that is difficult. So it becomes the morning star. Actually, I have the dates here. So Venus, after it goes retrograde, which is about 6 weeks prior to this, or a month, it will go retrograde, and after that, it will become a morning star by March 26th, and this represents great difficulty, okay? But then, when it goes back to the evening star, which will be August 26th, we're going to find peace ensues. That's what my research has told me, that in this cyclic process of Venus, when it goes retrograde and goes into the cycle up from evening star to a morning star and back to the evening star, that's where peace ensues. So after June and July, we're going to have some peace treaties. Things are really, really due to come together. And one more thing, we have a new moon, April 27th at 13 degrees of Aries this month, and Aries is new beginnings. And this new moon will be in the nakshatra Bharani, which symbol is the birthing process. So we are birthing something new, a new transformational change. We've got a lot to go through still, though. But this is all symbolic of what's to come. It's giving us all what we need to prepare. And here is what I'm going to say. So these retrogrades, these degree markings, and everything is going to bring all of the digging up of this truth. Remember, the truth heals. We have not been given the whole entire truth for so very, very long. And now we're getting it. Get ready. Be able to accept it. Be able to handle it. Because what is going to happen, this catalyst is going to bring a new progressive awakened world. And what I want to say is, once we're on the other side of all that will happen within the next 6 months, there will be peace and there will be a healing. And this will transform the world, humanity. But it's also going to transform individuals, raising consciousness. The world is changing, and it's going to start to vibrate from a higher consciousness. Yes, and there's going to be peace and healing. So what I want to say as a closing statement is, this is a turning point of a new era. Get ready and embrace the change, because what this actually is a transformation of consciousness. Wow. What a time to be on planet Earth. This is incredible. So I hope that you're still listening with me at the very end, and you get the positive message that this is bringing out and what it's all about, because it is exactly this. It's a transformation of consciousness on the planet for humanity. So with that, I think I'll close. If you would like more information on me, if you would like to sign up for my free newsletter, go to galacticcenter.org. And remember, while you're at my website, sign up for my Patreon community. That's amazing. And don't forget the Galactic Planner. You need to know when this is happening, all these events, that they're affecting your personal chart. This is what it's all about. And if you want to study with me, don't forget to go to my university website, become my student. Go to universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.